The mayor of Dallas and Texas Governor Greg Abbott addressing the press there. Joining me now, former NYPD Commissioner Bernard Kerik, Heather McDonald, Dan Bongino, and Lawrence Jones. And Lawrence, I want to go to you because apparently you were at the protest last night when the shootings began.
So I was heading to the protest simply because I wanted to see what was happening in my city. This is home. This is not just watching another news story. This is something that's very close to me. And I wanted to see the sense of the community, specifically because of the two shootings earlier this week. It's been a sad week for all of America. And so when I went down there, it was right after the shooting started. And it was a mess. And I can't explain it as much because I've never seen my city in such turmoil. But I want to know that the officers that were there, even though that they were receiving gunfire, that they protected those protesters, knowing that they were the target. One officer even pushed one of the protesters out of gunfire, and one of those bullets went into another officer. That is what's been happening in Dallas, and those are the stories that we must not forget.
Dan Bongino, you and I spoke earlier today. I thought the comments from the governor were very measured and really juxtaposed to the initial comments by the governor of Minnesota. Certainly, I think much more healing for everyone involved and everyone watching this.
Yeah, Charles, I wish everyone would take a lesson on how to give these speeches from Governor Abbott. I thought Governor Dayton, his comments earlier were frankly disgusting. I mean, he had no information to indicate that this shooting, however tragic, was racially motivated at all. And to introduce a racism element into it in a preemptive fashion without having any of the facts on the table is understandably going to upset a lot of people who are listening to a man in a powerful position like that's words. I mean, it's really the height of irresponsibility and a total lack of leadership on his part. Now, I'm glad you highlighted the difference between the two. It's important.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, Heather, we just did a show last Friday, a segment called War on Cops. Of course, that's your book. To me, it feels like the hysteria that surrounds all of these things initially certainly inflame tensions and make it more dangerous for everyone. How do we sort of decelerate that? And what's your initial assessment of all of the reactions?
Well, I think that what we've seen is just a more horrific example of the long-standing war on cops that's been going on rhetorically in this country. Officers feel under siege every day in inner-city areas, having been fed the lies from the Black Lives Matter movement that have been echoed by President Barack Obama, unfortunately, that officers are engaged in race-based policing. That's a lie, Charles. But officers can tell you they are facing a level of hatred on the streets now that they've never seen in their careers. A Chicago police officer told me the job is basically undoable now. So I think what we have to start doing to dial this back is telling the truth about why officers are in high-crime areas. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with accentuated levels of victimization and criminal offending. The officers are the one government agency most dedicated to black lives. And yet, unfortunately, President Obama, in his speech from Poland last night, repeated the falsehoods about the criminal justice system and the police that are poisoning the atmosphere on the streets that officers are facing today.
Charles, yeah. Charles, if I may, I'm a conservative as well as somebody that has went through the police academy and values law enforcement and the criminal justice system. But I have to interject because there is a relationship problem as it relates to the black community and the police. And it's something that we have to really dial back our political talking points and discuss. And what I mean by that relationship...
Let me ask you, because
go ahead.
I think everyone agrees there's an issue there. There's no doubt about it. But I think the question
there's distrust.
There's a level of distrust that goes all around on both sides. But I guess with Heather, with the point she was making, certainly what I observed last night and what I observed this morning when I heard President Obama speak was he was a lot more conciliatory toward the men and women in blue this morning after 5 had been murdered. And I kind of wish some of the things he said this morning he would have said last night. If he wanted to lay out those talking points, that's fine. I do think to a large degree they didn't give the whole picture. But, you know, it feels to me, Lawrence, that his message, the narrative that he pushes, never gives a complete, A, never gives a complete picture of what's going on, and B, never offers solutions. Go ahead.
And Charles, I totally agree, and I'm not just talking about the president, but also conservatives as well as Republicans, and I am a conservative. I believe that we need to focus on a message that unites the community, and I mean community policing. We can't deny the relationship as it relates to the black community and the police. Well, it's something that, quite frankly, we don't want to talk about.
Let me bring in Commissioner Kerik for a minute, guys, because we're talking about someone who knows this better than anyone. I lived in Harlem in the 70s. It was the most dangerous neighborhood in America for sure. And there was the same level of distrust. There was the same sort of animosity, and there was the same sort of war going on. And there were certain cops, though, that spent time in our block that we got to know and we got to really respect. Right. Is that one step toward trying to heal this thing?
It is, and it continues today, especially in the New York City Police Department. You have community relations officers in every precinct that go out into the communities and deal with the community and know the community leaders. But you got to keep in mind, cops go into high crime areas to reduce crime. And when
they're not there, crime gets worse.